Welcome to Adeptus On-Air, the show where we examine how individuals and companies make decisions that drive their business and personal success. Each week, we connect with notable professionals who pull back the curtain on the industries that Adeptus has been on the cutting edge of for the last 30 years, including music, sports, and entertainment, as well as new emerging markets.
Good morning, and welcome to Adeptus On-Air. I'm your host, Evan Eneman, and I'm here with guest Neil Rogers, founder of Rogers Marketing and author of a new book that we will share with you today. Welcome, Neil.
Thank you, Evan. Appreciate you having me.
Well, let's jump right in. Why don't you give our audience a brief introduction of yourself, your background, and talk a little bit about the new book?
Well, actually, it works quite well to do it together. So, because the story I have is starts out as a kid that really had no rudder, didn't know where he was going to go, and as a matter of fact, in my senior year in high school, I went to my mother in May and said, "Is there something I should be doing next year?" So we didn't have it all planned out like we had our kids planned out from DNA right up until they went off to school, right? So I gave school a try. I took a swing and a miss, and but all the while I was working in the hospitality business, so in various forms, and then I wound up front of the house as a barback, but I was looking at the bartenders and said, "That looks cool." So that was my criteria for wanting to be a bartender. So I went ahead and took up my first job doing that. And I really enjoyed the immediate feedback and the response I got from the customers. So for a moment, for a guy who had pretty low self-esteem at that time, I felt like maybe this is something I could be good at. And so I set out to then, okay, so I'm going to be in the whole restaurant business. So I took another swing at the hotel restaurant management school, strike two, and realized that maybe I'm not set out for the restaurant business, but that I learned through my customers that my interpersonal skills might bode well for sales. So now I set a path to be a salesman, and but you still needed a 4-year degree. So I put together a little process, or in today's parlance, an algorithm, and got good at school. And so that process, or that process of developing a process, really helped me throughout my sales career. So, I mean, simple thing, and everything that, and for your listeners, if anybody that gets the book, Bar Tips, there is no complex marketing theory in here. It's simple, everyday stuff. I learned that in order to be a good student, they like you to show up. They like you to listen. They like you to take notes. They like you to take the test, pass the tests, go to the extra hours, do all those things. And if you think about that for a moment, a lot of that stuff is what you need to be an effective salesperson. So it's where I kind of started building my process that was going to make me a successful salesperson. So when I was writing the book, I started interviewing and thinking about all the lessons that I learned, not only as a bartender, but on the road, and mentors that I that I came across. So when I was thinking about writing the book, I was encouraged to write a book during COVID. It was a COVID project, and trying to keep myself from going crazy. And I recall that my wife and I had attended an event here on campus. Here, I live in a golf community, and it was in New Hampshire. We live in New Hampshire, and my daughter was being honored for some chamber honor. You know how the chamber, they've got an award for everything. And the person who brought Five Guys burgers to New Hampshire was the keynote speaker. Nuts and bolts speaker, no big words, short sentences, my kind of guy, right? And so he goes on and talks. I don't know if you ever worked in hospitality, but there's pre-meal, and that you get you get together. What's 86? What's the special tonight? What's the wine of the night? Whatever it might be. And then there's a little bit of rah-rah. Well, his rah-rah speech was, we're not in the burger business. We're not in the fry business. We're not in the soda business. We're not in the shake business. We're in the hospitality business. Now, I looked at my wife, and in point of context, when I was working at a bar in Boston called Tia's, my wife was a food waitress. So I looked at her and said, I've never left the hospitality business. I've been bartending on the road for 30 plus years. Same stuff. Good greeting, organization, time management, attitude, aptitude, appearance, product knowledge, peripheral knowledge. What do you know about, and so in the restaurant business or in the hospitality business, peripheral knowledge is when you can tell somebody something outside of what will make you money that day, right? Where's the good show in town? Back in the day, what's the cab number, right? It's when you go to the doorman and you say, where can I get a good burger? Oh, you got to go down here. Yeah. So that was the basis of how I developed my sales process, and started out in the food distribution business. And we when you have seconds, I saw you nodding, so I think you were in the hospitality business at some point.
Been in the hospitality business all my life. Mine started
Okay.
in home hospitality, and then it progressed into public hospitality. And to your point, it's the pillars never change, the locations do.
Yeah, the reason why I was asking, because you remember chefs,
Absolutely.
they don't have any patience.
I
So
know.
those are the people I had a first call on, right? So I'm walking in, and I'm the new guy, and how am I going to win these people over? I just want them with kindness, bringing stuff in, making sure, not being intrusive. I don't want to take up any time. I'm the new guy, but I'd like to offer you this or whatever that may be. And I used to carry a binder, simple organizational binder that had the produce prices, the shrimp prices, the meat prices, all those commodities that changed every day. And then I also had something that I could sell, some add-on, some new item. But I had 37 seconds to do that. So, but as you develop that relationship, and they start to trust that you're not going to waste their time, right? Which is, I think a lot of people lose sight of that in sales. Like, always, understand the scope of the appointment, or what is it we're trying to do? How much time do you have? I'd like to hear about. I'm going to tell you a little something about me, but I want to hear a lot about you, and then I'm going to demonstrate whether or not I can help you, and I'll be frank with you whether or not I can. So you start building that trust. So that's kind of the beginning of how the germinating of the philosophy, and I turned that into like in doing that. And again, in our simple world, in my lane, I've been very successful. And so in food, they gave me a $3,000 a week territory, which means about nothing in commissions. So I'm still tending bar on the weekends, right? But I turned that what would be $150,000 territory into $1.8 million in 18 months, just by being nice, showing up, being well presented, and all that, and then delivering, and then over delivering, you know. And so I did this when then I shifted from that to the athletic footwear and apparel business. And so now I went from kind of a little bit of a safety net with some benefits to none. So now I'm really in the entrepreneurial world, right? I'm paying my own insurance. I am the original guy that's had high deductibles. Um, Matter of fact, my third child I paid out of pocket. So, uh, and then working from home, I've been here for 37 years. Well, in some home, not this one, but the same. But when I shifted from the food business to the athletic apparel and footwear business, it was a whole new gig, right? And now I'm traveling all in New England instead of Boston, right? And now I've got to map this out. And what I did was I did that before I started. I got all the organizational stuff done. And I did that after my job was over during the day in the food business, my 2 week notice. But the day ended at 2:30 because that's the only day if you get your orders in by 2:30. So the effective so the of organization, simple organization, just sitting down with blank Rand McNally and a pencil and a phone. Now I've got all my samples. I've learned how to lace them up, how to put them in bags, how to make them look properly. I'm getting all this. So when we open the doors, I'm ready to go. I don't know what I'm doing ultimately, but I'm ready. I'm ready to go out and stop making mistakes. So, and then for the last 27 years, my wife and I have had a swag business. So we've been in the promotional marketing business, and we're huge, as you might well imagine, a huge proponent of the media. So that kind of a little summary of the background.
Fascinating story and journey, and just to hear you telling and sort of recalling the simplicity of the process that you followed is something that's really important for people to understand, especially today in business, especially when so many people and younger people are faced with what to them are seemingly these enormous hurdles that they face. They have to take care of themselves. They have this technology they got to engage with 24/7, these anxieties that we've created for them in many ways. And it seems like this simple process is still there and still works. So if you take that pen and paper and focus, you can have the same level of success regardless of what time period you're in, what industry you're serving, what you're trying to do or sell, might just be yourself. All those things still boil down to very simple premise. Show up, be responsible, be engaged, listen to who you're talking to, right? I mean, that's hospitality 101. If you don't know what the guest or customer wants, how are you ever going to be able to serve them? Now, over time, you learn their little habits and things of that nature, and you can anticipate what they're looking for, and that's all part of it. But very simply, it's showing up, listening, and presenting something that the guest wants. And you can do that everywhere. And you can do it with a pen and
Everywhere.
paper.
We get so well with the 24/7 media, you know, AI is taking over the world. Okay. So I do a speech. It's called "Tech is No Threat to Me," and we talk about those things. We of course we have benefited from technology the last 50 years. Cell phones that act like computers, social medias that's connecting us with old friends, LinkedIn where I can discover who Evan E is, right? Um, Streaming services. Amazon's changed the whole shopping landscape. Um, Email marketing and text and email for communication. But answer me this. Why are people packed in coffee shops together? Why is it Alex Shoe Store in this town of Nashua, New Hampshire can thrive on a Tuesday in February? You know why? You walk in the door, they greet you. They ask you a question. What are you looking for today? Let me take you to that department. Bill, are you ready? Yep. Can you take care of this one? Sure. What are you looking for? Take them to the wall. Service. I mean, why is it with if Hulu and Netflix, why is it Barbie is killing it? Taylor Swift is selling out every stadium in this country. So, and one of the things in our world, direct mail is up in 2023. And we use it all the time. That's how we build our business. We don't do it spraying and praying. We do social media, we do email marketing, but we don't do it for prospecting. I mean, it may be part of it, but it's not part of not our integral part of our campaign. So
Tie that back to me to your experience behind the bar and direct media. What's the connection between the two? Is it the engagement from someone directly with something that's tangible? Where does that
well,
fit into the sales process for you?
one of the things is that, and I think we're all going to get back to in-person appointments in more volume soon, because and one of the phenomenon about what I just described, and with the different, with music on Spotify and people still wanting to go to see Taylor Swift, is that, and then of course the coffee shop thing, and this is kind of way more personal what we're doing than a straight phone call. I mean, I want a phone call after 3 emails. If we can't get it done, we need to chat. But there's a book out, and it's been around for a while, and it's written by a guy named Sean Acor, and it's called Happiness Advantage, and he studied happiness in 12 years at Harvard, and he also discovered one of the revelations from his study is that our long-term happiness and our longevity can be directly related to the depth and the breadth of our social interactions. And so, as a bartender, somebody's coming in to shake off a day, to shake off a week, to just have a nice night out with their wife or their husband, and you need to facilitate that. So how do we create that environment? And we call that in my book hospitality happiness, which is where and I it's one of those epiphanies I had when I was at visiting my with Lori, and I were visiting my mother-in-law in the villages in Florida. And the food in the villages is not that great, but there's one steakhouse. So we went to the steakhouse almost every meal because you could get a nice piece of fish, a good salad. It wasn't just all about the beef. So one night we got there. My mother-in-law at that point was 85 years. So we took that corner of the bar, So we got a 3-seater really, so we can actually talk. And the bartenders come over and they're, put down the cocktail napkin, greet us, how's your evening going? Just simple, proper greeting, which is first tip in the book, right? And we start coming back with them, chatting with them, and we've also met the general manager, who was a hospitality expert. He ran hotels in Puerto Rico. I think it was a whole family thing, and so we just go back and forth. He asked my mother-in-law for an ID. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Just simple banter, just having fun. And so what I typically get with a steakhouse is I like a good thick pork chop. So I say, I'm thinking about the pork chop. Just then he takes his finger and he puts that on the menu. And I looked at him and says, "Is that the one?" "That's the one." "Okay, I'll have that." Right? So we just have this thing going on, right? So the next day I finished the chapter, and what it is the symbiotic relationship between a bartender and a customer, a salesperson and their customer. This relationship that has been developed. Now, in the case of a bartender, it may be over 2 hours. And in the case of a salesperson, it might be over 20 years. But the whole key is that you're loving what I'm doing. I'm loving what you're doing. You're not only giving me business, you're giving me respect. You respect my time. You respect my creativity. And it's just a love fest. And we've all had them. I mean, I'm sure you've got your favorite bartender in town. You know where you're going to get served well. And you go there. I mean, I do. I don't go anywhere where, and I'm offended actually when somebody takes what I think to be a wonderful profession and ruins it by being nasty, or just not getting it. We're coming in to have fun. The energy we're going to give you is going to be really positive. If you give it back, this is going to be a great night for you and for me.
Yeah, there's a famous show that was filmed based in Boston that, is a real reflection on the changes of the times. And, obviously the tagline of it is, isn't it nice to go where everyone knows your name? And
Yeah.
there's a real purpose behind that. That is community. When you're working with people, and here we are in a podcast where thousands of miles apart, we get to see video and we can talk to each other, not something we had 20 years ago, clearly, if not longer. So technology has improved our ability to connect with people, and it's improved our ability to have not just these one-on-one relationships, but really long distance relationships that we can create with meaning. And everyone has a story, and you're telling yours, but in hospitality, your story is really not just your experience, it's your observation and your ability to take in everything around you that makes you really good at what you do, not just in your professional life, but also in your personal life. And it's not meant to be a balance. There is no real distinction between the two. If you show up to work, you're the person that you are. If you have to change who you are, then you really have to start to think, is your process fitting of your nature, and is that the right place for you to be? Can you talk a little bit about, and you mentioned it in the early part of the conversation, that aha moment for you when you realized your story is not only your own, your story is the aggregate of all of the interactions you're having with your guests, whether it be behind the bar or your clients when you're distributing food products to them, and how you decided to then put that down in a really simple, straightforward, comprehensive guide, almost a rule book for your daily life. What was that aha moment for you?
Well, I have been thinking about this bits and pieces all along. I have when I first started the food business, it's tough. It's a grind. You're in that you gotta be able to take it. So we I would do certain things. Like I'd post notes on my dashboard. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know I didn't read any self-help book. I didn't, but I would put on there, you're just getting started. Stay on the road. Keep going. Right. And so, and then all the various things I would learn along the way doing that. I would when I put it all together, it was all done in retrospect. So I'm thinking like, I've been doing this stuff all along. How did I do that? Where did I get that? Right. And my wife, we one of our chapters is called positive activity. Positive activity is the aggregate of almost everything, right? And in terms of positive activity defined as we define it is the practice, because we're yoga people. Everything's a practice. Nothing's perfect. It's a practice of getting your mindset right, right? So you now are in a place of positivity, which leads you to open-minded, solution providing creativity, which then takes you to productivity. So the mindset stuff to get creative is the same. We've got certain practices we do every day that all came out of a lot of them came out of the Happiness and Advantage book. Gratitude practice, random acts of kindness, meditation, move your body, all those things. We eat very well, and those things. And but they stay the same. The productivity part in this case is the business development practices that I've done for 37 years, which are, who can buy what you sell? Can you put that on one sheet of paper? Can you put your offering on one sheet of paper? Do you have a benefit statement? Now can you create a list of all those people that can buy what you sell? And then you're going to go out and you're going to have the group, which is your friends, your family, your business associates, the group you meet, right? So the people that you're going to go, you're at a cocktail party, you're at a business association meeting, you're at wherever that may be, anywhere on the planet. I sit at a counter in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and sell a book almost every time. Hey, I do this book. Yeah, right away. And then do you have and then the last group is the group you buy. So that's those list services, the people that are haunting you
Sure.
on LinkedIn every day.
I get plenty
And I
emails
think,
telling me lists.
yeah, exactly. And am I going? And the way how they're scrubbing the LinkedIn,
Yeah.
because they go, it'll be Dear Evan E.
Yeah, exactly.
or Neil P. It's like, and I want to call them back and say, does this really work? Are people actually buying from this? I mean, so, and then you had back to once you've created your list, do you have structured campaigns of follow up? Because I met Evan at a cocktail party, found whatever BS I was slinging was intriguing. I gave him my 30-second commercial, my elevator pitch, whatever we want to call it, my value prop. Yeah, I'm interested in that. Well, I got clues for everybody. Evan's not going to be sitting on his phone waiting for you on Monday. you got to get them in queue, and you have to be professional, and you have to be kind, and you have to be gentle, and you can't make assumptions, and you just keep going. Just make sure you pepper them, giving them information about what you do. Now, at some point in time, you're going to decide whether or not this is a good prospect. Just there's going to be things beyond your control. So I think that all that is the the sum total, and that's how we operate today. In our little business, we had $1 million client implode on us last year. Just went away. They went out at $17 in July. They were trading in the cents in January. $4 billion company. So what did we do? We started our process. Same process that we've used forever. And we're probably about halfway there. And in this business, it's the average ticket is not, a software package for $500,000. It's $1,200, right? So you got to be a lot of follow up, and there's some that we stay with because it's just such a big fish, and we had a good lead in. We just haven't found that connection.
So that's an interesting topic right there, because you really define the clarity and process, the repeatability of that process, the consistency of it, the persistence and perseverance that it requires to get that conversion at some point down that marketing funnel, if you will, or sales funnel. But you also made a point that you have to determine when to give up that lead.
Correct.
There is an amount of time you can say, well, it's the perfect target for our business.
Right.
It's the perfect size company. It's the perfect people. It's the right value system that they abide by. And it was a great lead. It's a really warm lead. And we know we're right there. We've talked to them X number of times. We've given them all the tools they need to say yes. And you can't get them converted. That's a really hard decision. Almost impossible sometimes for someone to walk away. And you're pot committed. How do you recommend someone in that business context step away from that and focus elsewhere?
Well, there's a dollar amount. I mean, because we pay our own bills, right? We don't have anybody else. When we send out our mailings, it's coming right out of the pocket. So it's the one company I'm thinking about, huge financial company, huge. And we got brought in at the top, but I haven't gone back and asked her and said, listen, I'm getting no headway with you people. I haven't done that yet. I'm hesitant to do that yet, because yeah, sure, we're spending money, but it's not. I mean, the return could be staggering, and we're only about probably a year into the process, so we might have $600 invested. So, to me, I've sent them my book, signed copies. She took a picture of it. I'm reading it on the plane. Great. Okay. So now you hear my whole philosophy. Don't you like me better now?
Right.
Come on. I mean, geez, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to be nice to you. Right. And so, yeah, but it's a tough thing. But I think when people just get, we're on the other side of this, right? The kids are all gone. The tuitions are all paid. There are no mortgages. There's no car payments. There's none of that stuff, right? So it's kind of a sport now, a lot, because I still want to prove it out that it still works, and it does. Because I mentioned in the Tech is No Threat to Me that direct mail is up. Well, lumpy direct mail, is really up in terms of lumpy mail gets opened. If you get a dimensional box that comes to your desk, you're opening the thing. I'm getting something. What is this? And if there's some pizzazz on the outside or some custom way that it's approached, it's going to get open, right? So how are you timing your phone call after that? So that's where an email and a phone call would be a good idea. And that's those business development steps we talk about. And so, but yeah, to answer your question, I think when the potential is there, I'll hang in longer, like if it's massive.
Sure.
But I mean, as a matter of fact, I've got a friend that's moved on to another company from that company that imploded,
Sure.
and I'm thinking about taking a different tact with him and saying, because he loved my book, said, "How'd you like to send me to your customers to speak on the book?" So I might take a divergent path and to still get some business out of it, because when he walked into a company that was fully involved, really involved with someone in our business. So that's when you got to say. So I'm also saying, hey, we don't need it all. We'd be happy a second, third player. Give us a project or two. We're happy to do that.
Right. Sometimes someone can't fulfill an order. You need a backup. We're happy to step up and provide that service.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's interesting because a lot of what I'm hearing in our conversation and what you're sharing in the book is really, core tenets in life, core tenets of business. Knowing that practice makes progress is important. There is no such thing as perfection. Even the study of science is not about perfection. It's about incremental learning for positive improvements. And too often we forget that. We're told we need to be perfect, we need all these things, we need a college degree. Not always the case. Not always the right path for everyone. There's a different path for everyone, and maybe college starts at 40 for some people. They've gone through the years of experience they need. They've learned their process in order to learn in a structured institution. Those are all good. That's wonderful if that's the path that you take. If you can give one piece of advice, life is full of careers are full of peaks and valleys. These are not. I know we talked about everything sounded good, and you went from one, you built it from a small revenue to huge exponential growth. All the stories don't start as easy as that in life and in business. There's some really times where we go through struggles and losing clients that may put you up against the wall, and now your mortgage is in jeopardy. You have to maybe terminate some of your team members or furlough them because you just can't make payrolls. There are difficult times too. What's that one piece of advice that you can give either your 18, 25, 35-year-old self, or the person that is out there right now trying to figure out their path, figure out their process?
Well, it's going to sound pretty trite. Stay positive. And when we talk about positive activity, we say stick with it for 90 days. Now, none of this, by the way, is an absolute. I mean, I fully confess in the beginning part of the book is that please take this, do with it what you will, adjust it, make it work for yourself, right? But 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 get that process going. Well, so whatever. But the first part is if you start your day with your mind right, no matter what happens, yeah, there's gonna be. And by the way, do you know when we discovered the positive part of it? Thought that the structured positive part of it was 2008. Well, how we and we did have kids in school, and we didn't have any mortgages, but it was like how are we going to do this?
Right.
And where's our lifestyle going to go? And, all that. And Lori and my wife is the one who brought it in. And it came from my daughter my daughter was a Division I lacrosse player. And she had a career-ending head injury her senior year. Spent her natural senior year home with us in post-concussion syndrome. Got hit in August. No, excuse me, hit in October, and drove again in July.
Wow.
This wasn't fun. She was going off to this this event, which is this healing event. It was right here locally in town, and was all these healers and meditation and uh, acupuncture and all this stuff. And my wife adopted it, and we brought it into the business. Now, again, I mentioned here that 100 years ago, I was posting positive notes on and we're talking about tried and true process and things. Ask Dale Carnegie,
Right.
1939. He's right over there on my bookshelf. You know who he's right next to? Napoleon Hill. Think and Grow Rich.
Mm.
Mindset.
Yeah.
So I think you have to, as we just discussed with the how long do you go before somebody doesn't respond? Well, you may have to change your business.
Sure.
You may have to adjust, right? So back to long answer to your short question. It's all about remaining as positive and having a good mindset, I think.
Yeah. No, it is critical, and I know there's an organization. I don't know if it might be the same one that I believe is based in New Hampshire, called Love Your Brain, which actually helps people that have traumatic brain injuries, and obviously concussion is exactly that. And it
Sure.
really is about process. It really is about understanding how the mind works, how your body responds to healing, meditation, positive affirmations, and that process does work in business. When you show up to a meeting and you have a smile on your face and you're positive, you have a little bit of that confidence, that swing in your step, that goes a long way. It really does. And that's something that I think we all need to be reminded of or coming out of, and seemingly, not seemingly, we're still in a very um, difficult process right now in society, not just in the US, around the world. COVID changed how we feel about things, how we do things, how we interact with people. We're getting our sea legs back. We're talking to people again. We're out and about with them, and that may change again, and we're going to see that back and forth. So, I think your points are very well said about the power of positivity, the power of that process, because part of the process, it sounds like for you, is when you wake up every morning with clarity, when you lay out what your intent is for the day, you can go out and achieve it. If you wake up
Good.
that same morning and things just seem a little bit chaotic and you don't take the time to set your intention for the day or to organize your thoughts, it doesn't have to be these, buzzword, holistic healing things, but just setting your intention, setting your steps for the day, the 5 things you need to get done. Maybe it's 3 things. We can't all process 50 things at once. It's not how our brains work. It's not how our bodies work. We don't all have a degree from, higher education that is just paper on the wall necessarily. It doesn't mean you can interact with people well. So I think your point is very well made. And, I want to help people understand where to get your book, because I think it is an important book for people to read, to understand that the challenges we may create in life may be very simple obstacles that we can overcome with a little bit of process and some slight changes to what we do every day. And I think it's also interesting to see how those incremental changes over time, that process, the progress that we're making based on our practice, which everything is, can make a profound difference in our lives as professionals and what we deem as success. And that may just be more time with our family and friends.
Exactly.
So please, would love to hear where our audience can get a copy of the book and where they can really start to understand a little bit of your story in more depth, which is the aggregate of all these experiences, that time behind the bar, which, for better or worse, it's a great place to connect and have one-on-one conversations and community conversations. I've been at a bar where, having a conversation with the bartender and whatever the topic is, and all of a sudden 15 people at the bar having a conversation as if we're lifelong friends. And there's just something about that community. So would love to give you a couple of minutes to tie that all together for us.
So the book is called Bar Tips. It's the tagline is, it sounds similar to somebody else's tagline. Everything I needed to know in sales, I learned behind the bar. It's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and a lot of all the Line 9 bookstores. Haven't quite figured, this my process in getting it into bookstores. I because the return to go out and pitch to a bookstore is not. It's hard to justify the cost of going up and seeing them,
Sure.
right? So it's because you're making $4 a book. It's like, how are we gonna? But I've started to make inroads with some bookstores. But basically, I mean, as a matter of fact, I want to prove out my philosophy that people are still going to the bookstores. Matter of fact, a friend of mine called me yesterday and said, well, I hadn't seen her in a while. I called her the other day and told her about the book. She was sick. I'm buying the book. Okay. She got the book the next day. She called me yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. She goes, no, Sunday she called me and she said, I'm mad at you. What'd I do? Irish Catholic guilt, right? And she goes, the book ended.
Mm.
She goes, she couldn't put it down.
I mean,
I don't, believe me, nobody's more surprised. Nobody's more surprised than me, right? But there isn't a day that goes by I don't get a text or an email or something. And I think back to a point you were making earlier about how it all ties in with life and this, that, and that. The greatest compliment I've received. Now, in point of context, I've got a autistic son, and so we've done lots of things to try to figure it out. But we also did things that would benefit him and those like him. We created an organization called PACE, which was Parents Assisting Special Education. And so we raised money, put it right back into the schools. And so that wasn't just for Craig, it was for all the special needs kids. And then when he left the system or graduated at 21, he wanted to stay in school. So I visited with the local community college, and we created the first of its kind special needs classroom, intensive needs classrooms, I should say, at the community college. So a buddy of mine says, hey, do you think, because he loved the book, he said, do you think all that stuff you talked about helps you out with the other stuff you did? So yeah, it did. Connecting dots, simply. No big words. No. We're not diving into something. We're not keeping the guardrails or whatever it may be. It's like
The buzzwords.
yeah. There's no buzzwords in my world. It's plain talk, and that's why I love the Five Guys guy. It's like, geez, man, you're like, I'm not trying. I don't want people to have to break out of thesauruses, when we're having a conversation. Lord knows I couldn't do it anyways. I mean, there was a reason why I failed at school a couple of times. So, but yes, I appreciate that offer. I think it's for everybody. Just little reminders. I hope it is. I can't compare myself to Dale Carnegie and Napoleon, but I hope somebody thinks it's going to be great, and it's going to sit on the desk for a while, and refer back.
Someone already has, and it sounds like it's one of those books that you're going to pick up and read and always go back to and read more than once. Get those reminders, get those little tips, especially as you might be forgetting something in that process one day, and reset your intent. So, I do want to, thank you, Neil, for your time today, and, encourage you, which I don't think you need the encouragement, to keep spreading that hospitality happiness and keep encouraging that positive process in people's lives. So thank you again for your time, and thank you for sharing your book with us.
Thank you, Evan. I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you all for listening to Adeptus On Air. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to Adeptus On Air. If you like this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. If you have a question related to this episode or have a request for what you would like to hear, please email us at marketing@adeptuscpas.com. You can also find us at adeptuscpas.com online or follow us at Adeptus on social media. The views and opinions by the podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Adeptus. This podcast provides general information only and is not intended to constitute advice.